Hello guys and welcome back to Haymanager with me Alex, and today I'm going to delve into the best FM23 saves that you could do this year with the challenges to face within the clubs themselves. So kick straight into it, why not, shall we? And the first team I'm going to highlight is the Go Ahead Eagles from Deventer. So this is a team in the Eredivisie League. They are a Dutch side who over the years haven't really done much in the league. They've been to-ing and fro-ing. They've had a bit of a European spell here and there, trying to really establish themselves as like a top side in the Dutch league. As you can see on the screen here, we've got the league table at the moment. They're sitting in 11th. That's 5 games. They've got 4 draws, 1 win. They're sitting 11th in the league. Obviously, as you can see down here, 14 points, half of that of PSV and the likes of Ajax and Feyenoord. But the main one with this is the reputation's not too big. They're expected to finish just outside the relegation zone, 15th, the relegation battle. I think this team will be a very good one to really try and rejuvenate the side, because as you can see in the background perhaps, their stadium is absolutely fantastic and their fan base is absolutely massive. They're so invested in the side, great fan base, so that's one of the main objectives for this team. So you're going to try and build a reputation, get them back up to that level, grow the fan base, invest in the facilities, as you can see, adequate training facilities, average youth facilities, and so on and so forth, and then become the best team in Holland. But take a few seasons, you're going to try and knock off the likes of Ajax, Feyenoord, PSV, some of the best teams in the league. As you can see, some of the best players here aren't even worth 850k, and you're looking at Anthony you sold for 70 million. That's the type of player you're coming up against in the likes of Ajax. So maybe scouting for youth. As you can see, they've got quite a few youngsters in the side. 2 18-year-olds. Sven Janssen looks like a great goalkeeper. Pim Sarthoff, he looks like a good little player. And then Markello as well, coming in for 300k. A few decent players. So maybe invest in your youth, bring them through. That's a good little save to go for the Go Ahead Eagles. It should be a long-term save, really, looking for at least 5 seasons to try and battle for the league. Moving on, we have the next team which we're going to use, and it is Marseille. So I'm going to go big or go home for the second one. This is going to be a team where you're going to try and rebuild the squad entirely. So this year they've brought in the likes of Guendouzi, Nuno Tavares on loan, Mbemba, Cengiz Under, Luis Suarez. Lots and lots of players have joined Marseille. Their transfer incomings and outgoings, they've been very tactical. They've sold a lot of players. They've brought in experience and youth. Alexis Sanchez, another one they've brought in. Great players. And last year they finished second. This year they're in the Champions League, so another European venture for yourselves. Whether or not you try and push for the Champions League, whether or not you try and go to the Europa League and settle down there, you've got to try and really balance the squad. Now, their financial status is secure, but their owners are very rich. They're a very, very rich club, as you can see with the amount of investment they've done, but their transfers are very clever. So whether or not you wanted to try and sign players to sell them in the future, maybe bring in only £8 million players, or limit yourselves to a max for a transfer budget, transfer sale of maybe 20 million per player. That's a pretty interesting way of doing things. But for me, this save is going to revolve around bringing in players to sell them on. PSG, you bring in the big dogs, you bring in high reputation players. This one's very much you bring in players for under maybe 20 million and try and grow them into big players to then sell on to buy 3 more other 20 million pound players, if you get what I'm saying. So you're trying to invest in youth basically. And this team is relatively new in Mbemba, as you can see, Marseille as well. 14 games, 27 points at the moment. Rebuilding the squad, European venture. Challenge PSG for the title this year more than any. I think PSG really need to be humble because it's going to be very hard with Messi there for the next 2 or 3 years. But yeah, this is a very interesting save. Transfer budget's nice. Wage budget's very, very high. You've got excellent training facilities, excellent youth, adequate recruitment. So whether or not you want to improve that, up to yourselves. But I think they're setting the cap on 20 million for all the players coming in. I think it's brilliant. I think it's going to be a great save, and yeah, just really good to try and challenge PSG in a challenging save, in all honesty. Next up, Newcastle, a proper old school team from the Barclays Premier League days. You're looking at the likes of Shearer coming out of there, who are just, well, it's the top goal scorer for the whole of the Premier League in the history of the Premier League. So you're looking at players to bring in to really rebuild this team, to make them a European side again. It's great this year because you're looking at them really starting to fight for that European spots. It's just going to be one of those that are trying to break into that top 6 sort of sides. So the challenge for this one, because obviously You've got the rich status, you've got a high transfer budget, you've got nice wage budget to use, pretty much unlimited funds really. For me, I think what in this stage, to make it a challenge, you've got to spend that entire transfer budget. So whatever you get given year on year, you have to spend that in its entirety. You're looking at maybe spending either 120 million each year, or if you have a bad year, potentially you've only got 20 million. You need to sell players to build that transfer budget, and you wipe it clean. You wipe that clean. You can't mess around with setting the wages into higher ones or using the transfer budget in favour of yourself. You set the budget, and you have to spend that. Now, to me as well, only signing high reputation players will be a big one, because I think for Newcastle going forward, you're not going to be looking at youth. You're not going to be looking at training facilities or anything like that to really bring the youth through. It's going to be a case of bringing a big player, start them in the starting 11. They've got to really hit the ground running. And that's, for me, is what I think Newcastle are trying to do at the moment. They're bringing in the likes of Sven Botman and Alexander Isaac, who are top quality players, but 22-23, spending their entire budget. So, to me, this is how I think it should go. You finish in the top 4, then you've got your European challenge, invest in the facilities. Then, as soon as you become that big team, you can invest in the facilities for the younger lads, sell them on, but spend and wipe that transfer budget out each year makes it a bit of a harder challenge. So that, for me, is going to be where Newcastle and their save sits, because I think this would be a very good one to do, just to start up and try and challenge for the Premier League. It'd probably be like a 5-year save to 3 to 4 maybe year save, challenge for the Premier League, and then you're looking for another 2 to 3 years to challenge for the Champions League. It should be a great save to do. So yeah, Newcastle United. Next up, Schalke. Now this is your fallen giant. This is the team that used to be absolutely massive. Raul played for them at one point. Huntelaar. I can't think of anyone else who's massive that plays for them. Farfan, I remember him from like the FIFA days, FIFA 12 days. This team need a rebuild. 100% an overhaul of everything, because they used to be such a big side. Neuer came from them. You're looking at Bayern picking up a lot of players from this team. The youth facilities were always amazing. So to me, I think this side, as you can see here, they're sitting dead last in the Bundesliga, 18th. No wins in the last 5 games. They've had 1 win, 3 draws all season, 9 losses. The challenge is to make sure they avoid relegation. Now, you've got a transfer budget there, not very high, a wage budget, not very high, but you've got excellent training facilities, excellent youth facilities, and good youth recruitment. So you've got to try and do what you can with these sides. So as you can see, they've got Alex Kralin on loan, Jordan Larson they've brought in for a fee, Sepp van den Berg, 20-year-old centre-back they've brought in on loan. A lot of players they're bringing in on loan to try and get them past and get them back up out of that relegation zone to really just develop the players themselves. So you might see surviving relegation as a challenge. It's going to be a big challenge. It's going to be a lot of yo-yoing back and forth from the Bundesliga too. But the other big one is fixing their financial problems. They have little to no budget. You are going to have to do wonders by bringing in really high reputation players that are very young and then trying to sell them on, much like Dortmund's model. You bring in like a Jadon Sancho for maybe 10 million, sell them on for 70. Erling Haaland for 20, you sell them on for 60 odd million. You bring in Bellingham for 14 million, you sell them on for 100 million. This is the model Schalke need to try and adapt, and they are I've got to admit, very, very good bringing through that youth. They're great at the youth. So investing in the youth is another one, and then returning to former glory. This is going to be a long-term save. You're looking at maybe 6 to 8 years to even get into any type of position to challenge the likes of Bayern, Dortmund, Leipzig, a lot of these teams. So to me, Schalke, a fantastic side to use. They've not got that much youth, so it's a fresh slate. Do what you want with them, and they'd be brilliant to try and bring back to their former glory. Last but not least, you have to always have one of these types of saves within FM, and this one for me is going to be the outstanding one. I think this would be a great one to do, in all honesty. I'm even considering doing it as a YouTube series. Crewe Alexandra. So Crewe Alexandra sitting currently in League 2. As you can see, 16th. Now, Crewe Alexandra, famous for producing the likes of Dele Alli, and their youth facilities and youth recruitment used to be out of this world. Now, they're also famous for being a little bit dodgy with that, but to move past that, you've got to try and get this club back up to where they were formerly. I think they were, I believe they were in the Championship at one point. So as you can see here, they are last season they relegated from League One, so they're going to need to go back to League One. It's difficult to go bouncing back from a relegation because you lose a lot of players. But as you can see, they've got a very decent goalkeeper. They've got Arthur Okonkwo, I believe his name is, on loan, 1.5 million. He's going to be your key man. He's going to be great in defence, and then you're looking at everyone else being the forwards, 500, 600k. You're looking at trying to invest in sort of players in the defence. Now you look at the youth here. You've got Zach Williams, Joel Tabina, Charlie Finney, Ellie King is on loan, but Arthur Nkonkwo as well on loan. I think these type of players would be fantastic to develop, bring them forward. Use the homegrown players, and that's the challenge for this one. You can only use homegrown players. I think improving the youth facilities is huge because they've got a fairly basic youth recruitment, average youth facilities. But for me, if you only sign players under 18, only use the homegrown players that you bring through, the likes of English players, but also you can try and look for players that are under 18 and develop at the club. So you're looking at your 16, 17-year-olds to bring in, whack them in the under 23s or under 18s, invest in them, bring them through, and then in 2 to 3, maybe 4 years' time, if you're still sitting in this league, because the expectations aren't high, you're looking to just avoid relegation for maybe the first 2 seasons. If you bring in an 18-year-old who's got high potential, looking really good, and you bring him up to that position where at 20 he's looking pretty good, obviously working within your transfer budget, that's where you go into League One. You then sell him on, you bring in a new youth player, on and on. The system goes on and on. So you're looking to really establish this homegrown talent, bring in players through the youth, promoting them to the youth team, to the senior team when you deem fit, and then trying to win the league with kids. Essentially, is the famous 1996, was it 1996 side for Manchester United that quote unquote you can't win anything with kids. That team was phenomenal. They're looking at 21, 22-year age players, bringing through like 16 to 18-year-olds as well. Much like Manchester United's team, you're looking to maybe bring in maybe a big class. If you can get in players at 16, 17 from around the world, and then or even the homegrown class of players, to then really bring them through at 18, that's your class of 2024, say, class of 24, and really try and push them going forward, and it'll just be something more exciting to really get yourselves into, and it'll also be great with the fans. So then, that's your 5 teams to use this year, 5 saves to really try and adapt on, different challenges here and there. You've got your Crew Alexandra, which is your homegrown players, your Marseille, which is you're really managing the budget, selling players to sell them on for more, to be able to like really adapt that role to bring in the high talented players. And you've got the likes of Newcastle, which is spend big but high expectations, and also your Go Ahead Eagles, which is dominating and setting up a new league elsewhere, as well as your Fallen Giants, which is your Schalkers, for example, who are struggling at the moment but bringing them back to the former glory. So a nice few teams there to select from. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please as ever leave a like, subscribe if you are new, check out my series, which is with Everton at the moment, the revival, a nice little beta save going into the new year of FM. I'm probably going to try and look at starting a new one around midway through December after the World Cup. But yeah, thanks for watching. As ever, hope you're all well, and catch you in the next one. From me, Alex, have a great day. Ciao.